Hello there, welcome to Mini Math Lessons with Karen Greenhouse. Today, this is a mini math lesson on using a geoboard and exploring squares and rectangles. So I've already created the activity. It's shared by URL in Classpad.net. So all I'm doing is typing in the URL. If you would like to use it, you can have the same URL. It's on the blog and it's also in a link in this video below. And if you like the activity and want to explore it more or use it with your students, feel free. You just have to share the URL. If you want to save the activity and maybe modify it or add to it, you can do that as long as you create an account in Classpad.net. And once you have an account, then you can go up here and duplicate the activity and it saves into your own account. And then you can change it as you need. So this is an activity using the Geo Board, which I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here just to show you how easy it is to make a Geo Board. So I am going to click anywhere on the screen. That's the beauty of Classpad. You can do whatever math you want. So here are my options: calculate, graph, geometry, data, sequences, financial, and some text, which is these things right here where I'm writing my directions. So you can pretty much do everything. So just to show you how to make a geoboard real quick, because geoboards are amazing tools to use with students. You're going to click the geometry sticky and it brings up this geometry sticky. And up here is a 3-dot menu. Anytime you see 3 dots anywhere in Classpad, it just means there's more. So when I click that on the geometry grid, you'll notice I have lots of grid options, and a geoboard would be this dot grid. So I'm going to click that to turn it on. I'm going to click grid to turn on the grid. And then when you're working in geoboard, you kind of want the objects, whether it's segments or polygons or whatever, to snap to the point. So I'm going to hit this fix so that they're always snapping to the points because I want that to stay. And then I like to turn off auto labeling. You can keep it on if you want, but I like to turn it off. And so once I've selected all my options, I'm going to hit OK, and now you'll see there's my geoboard. And so I can just get segments and make shapes based on segments, however I want to do it. Or I can get the polygon tool and make shapes based on a polygon. So lots of things I can do once I have that geoboard. And then once you have the geoboard, you can obviously change those shapes. So notice, because I chose snap points, the points as I move them will snap to a whole a whole point that's on the geoboard. So this is thinking of rubber bands. Teachers who use geoboards, this is sort of behaving like the rubber band would, right? So that's the easy way to make a geoboard with Classpad.net, and I can move this now wherever I want. I can enlarge it and use it as I want. So I'm going to just erase it because I already have my activity created and I've already done the things I want. So in this activity, the idea is for students to kind of explore how squares and rectangles are similar and how they're different. So really kind of reinforcing the definition of a square and rectangle, having them do some discovery to figure out the relationship. So you'll notice in my geoboard I have the square and the rectangle already constructed, and the students are told to move the orange point, and notice that that changes the size of the square and or rectangle but keeps it always that shape. So this is always going to be a square, and what they're going to just be looking at is what makes this thing called a square. So hopefully they'll look at the length of the sides. This is 2, this is 2, this is 2. So all the sides seem to be the same. Even if I change it and make it really big, all the sides seem to be the same. So maybe that's an interesting feature of a square. And then over here I can do the same thing with my rectangle. And notice my rectangle changes differently than my square does. I can make my rectangle really long and skinny. I can make it large and fat. I could technically make it look like a square, right? So these are the things you want them discovering, and so they're going to play around with this and they're going to write down their observations here in the little text sticky, and then once they kind of have a sense of what a rectangle and square is, then we're going to challenge them a little bit. And again, here's 2 rectangles and a rectangle and a square already constructed for them, and they're going to explore and try to see if they can answer these questions. And by answering these questions, they're learning a little bit more about what a square is and what a rectangle is. And hopefully by the end of this exploration, they can answer these two very important things. Can a rectangle be a square? And the answer to that is yes, obviously, but we want them to discover it and explore it and figure it out. And is a square a rectangle? And the answer to that is also yes. Well, actually, the answer to this one is going to be sometimes, because a rectangle is not always a square, but it can be a square. But a square is always a rectangle. So these are the kind of things we're hoping that they're going to discover as they move around and play with these shapes. So that's this activity. Relatively simple, and if you feel like you want to add more questions to it or add different more geoboards and add in some of those other quadrilaterals, that's perfectly fine. That's the beauty of Classpad.net. You can start with something somebody's already done and modify it to make it fit your needs. So just save it in your account and add to it as you need to.